Hey, in today's video I want to share with you how to make money according to astrology, as opposed to capitalism, which, by the way, told us if we just work hard enough and we go to school, we would have everything we need. Yet, if you're a millennial, there's a chance that doing that just gave you an astronomical amount of student loan debt, inability to afford a home, even children, and for many basic living necessities. I would honestly argue that capitalist society is unable to guide you in any meaningful way when it comes to attaining money or resources, because it would then have to admit that it's not possible for absolutely every person to just attain wealth. Even just by the simple fact that in late stage capitalism, the 1% of the population has already hoarded most of the available wealth, and the 99% of the population that is left to struggle and continually squeeze for their productivity and their labor. And no, we also can't just pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. It's impossible, literally, because gravity. And yet, somehow we all still have to figure out how to gather resources in order to survive. Not to mention that many of us would actually like to be productive members of society. We like to use our talents or skills in order to sustain ourselves. And of those people, many of us would like to make the world a better place at the same time that we are trying to survive. And this is exactly why I want to share with you how to make money according to astrology. And in this video, I'm gonna say the word money, but I'm honestly just referring to resources in general: safety, shelter, food, things that can be attained by money. But money is a social construct. If you had $1 billion in your account and absolutely nobody wanted to give you anything in exchange for the money would be worthless. So it's not money that we're after, it's the resources that money can attain. But of course, for the purposes of SEO on this platform, I am going to use the word money throughout this video. I spent the last 6 months studying Vedic astrology, and I learned that Vedic astrology allows you to see your own life map, if you will. If you look at your birth chart, you can actually tell what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Are you actually able to sustain yourself, or are you destined to struggle with money or resources? Which areas of your life will actually bring you abundance? It covers virtually all areas of your life, but I do want to emphasize that astrology is not a get rich quick scheme. What actually started to really get me fascinated about astrology is that if you look at your birth chart, you could technically actually see that you are meant to struggle with money. You could learn that you're destined to struggle with your career. You could learn that resources come to you through relationships. If you knew that you're destined to have the bare minimum, no matter how hard you work, would you still be killing yourself at work? Or would you then choose to dedicate more time to your family and things that give you happiness? If your astrology shows that your resources will come through marriage, would you choose to start a business, or would you start focusing on your dating life? Sprinkle, sprinkle. Because if we just listen to the capitalist advice in this society to just hustle and try as hard as you can, there are actually absolutely no promises or guarantees that you will get return on that investment that you did through your hard work. Paradoxically, as capitalism is telling us to chase money, it cannot guarantee that we will have it. And capitalism doesn't care if you succeed in attaining your wealth, because just you trying perpetuates the capitalist system in itself, even if it's just by embodying or modeling the values of productivity to the people around you. Now, because I can't teach you the totality of Vedic astrology in one video, this is going to be a long-term project in my channel. Today I will show you the basics of how to look at your chart and tell how to make money according to astrology. And in following videos, we can move on to more detailed and complex subjects. So today's video is going to cover a few things: how to read your birth chart and which areas of your life to start studying so that you can understand how it is that you're destined to sustain yourself in this life. So in case we have a mixture of beginners and intermediate students, take a look at the timestamps in this video so you can fast forward to the areas that you actually want to look at. First of all, what is a birth chart? A natal chart is basically a picture of the sky at the exact moment that you were born. Meaning a picture of the sky and where the planets were located when you were born, because all the planets and the stars are constantly moving. In astrology, certain areas of the sky rule certain areas of your life. So if you start to study which zodiac signs are ruling which areas of your life and which planets are affecting certain areas of your life, you can start to understand which areas of your life will actually bear fruit. Now, in order to find your birth chart, it's really important that you have the accurate birth time for yourself, date of birth, and the city and country in which you were born. If you don't have your exact birth time, there are astrologers that specialize in rectifying your birth chart so that you can find an accurate one. You could actually even use the birth chart of your own business if you wanted to, and that's going to be a separate video that I'm going to make later down the line. I even did my pet's birth chart. And you just want to use the time in which you believe it was born. And I did feel like it made sense, like it was the right birth chart for us. But especially if you're a multi-passionate person, it's so important that we understand like where we're capable of actually gathering resources or money for ourselves. Because if you watch my introductory video, I shared that for years I had been trying to be an artist just to get an astrology reading and find out that I'm actually not able to sustain myself through art. And you know what the crazy thing is? I was like, well, I want to number one understand why I got that comment, and I want to put it to the test. And in the last 6 months that I've actually not made videos for this channel, because I was finishing my astrology course, I have gotten more requests to read people's chart than I ever did about selling my art in years that I have spent trying to be an artist. Because it's just so confusing as a person. You can have so many desires, and capitalism is telling you just try whatever you like best, and that's just not true. Like sometimes something is your job and something can be a hobby, and that hobby doesn't necessarily have to sustain you. But anyway, studying your birth chart will really help you get some clarity how to actually read your natal chart. The way you read a Vedic astrology chart is you start with the top diamond and you go counterclockwise. And when you look at a Vedic astrology chart, the numbers on that chart are not going to be the house numbers. They're actually going to be the order of the zodiac signs. And if any planet has an R next to it, it means that planet is retrograde. So which areas of your natal chart should you start studying to understand how to make money according to astrology? There are many factors that you want to look at, so let's talk about some basic fundamental ones that we can start to understand our own chart. First, I would say you want to look at the 2nd house and the 10th house and the 11th house. Oh, there are so many. The 2nd house in your chart shows your ability to have resources, which can be money, like I said, but it's also food, shelter. Take a look at the zodiac signs first so that you can start to understand what kind of an energy is actually present in your relationship with resources. Then you want to take a look at the 10th and 11th house. The 10th house shows your karma in life, but also your authority. Which areas of life would you have authority over? So again, you want to take a look first at the zodiac sign, then take a look at the 11th house, which is the house that represents gains, as well as social networks, large social networks. Which zodiac sign is ruling that? Now, those are the primary houses. The secondary houses that you want to look at, in my opinion, are the 1st house. The 1st house represents yourself, how you show up in the world. You can take a look at the 6th house to understand your daily routines, and you can take a look at your 7th house to understand your partnerships, which can be business contracts, but also can be marriage. So a lot of factors to consider, as I mentioned. Okay, let's take a look at my channel's chart to give you an example of what I mean. And yes, I had to redo this section so everything might look a little slightly different. Okay, so my channel is a Libra ascendant. Libra is a sign that is originally 7th house, and the 1st house is a Dharma house. It has to do with life purpose. So the purpose of my channel will be explored through relationships. And that makes a lot of sense, right? If you're a teacher, but you have no students, are you actually being a teacher? Are you experiencing teaching? So I need the audience in this case in order to express my life purpose or even just experience it. The second layer is you want to take a look at the Lord of the house. So Libra is ruled by the planet Venus. Venus is in the 11th house of large social networks. That kind of makes sense, right? I'm going to have relationships with a large group of people. It's not like only one person's already going to see this video, hopefully. Hopefully it will be a large group of people that are in some kind of relationship as they're watching and as we're learning together. Now, in the first house, I have K2. So that's K2 represents like isolation, but because you're going within. And so, in order to express my purpose, right, which has to do with relationships, I kind of have to go into myself. Like, even making this video, I'm making it alone. I have to do the research, take notes, all on my own. I have to go within to come up with the ideas of what I'm going to share with you, what I think will matter for you, what I can give, what I think will be of value to you. But it also represents something that I've already conquered in past lifetimes. Which is funny that I was telling you guys, I used to have another YouTube channel. I've conquered being in partnerships, in relationship with people when it comes to YouTube. Like, I know what it's like to make videos over a long period of time and have an audience watching. Even if it was a small audience, I feel like I got this. I just gotta make videos about astrology now. So you can think of K2 as something that you've already mastered, and you almost take it for granted because you're naturally good at it. But yeah, let me keep going. Okay, now let's take a look at the second house. I have Scorpio in the second house. Dun dun dun. A sign of karmic matter, subject matters. Scorpio represents ups and downs. So because this is the house of resources, it can be that my channel is gonna experience ups and downs. Like, it's not just gonna be like I'm gonna be Jeff Bezos because I made videos. It could be that I go through periods of time where a lot of people are watching my videos and it's really cool. Other periods of times it goes down and I feel like few people are watching. And I mean, even YouTube itself has that kind of pattern in itself already. Like, during the summer, not a lot of people watch videos. Like, no matter who you are, it is said that viewership goes down in the summer. So my point being, like, don't just be scared of Scorpio, because Scorpio also represents what's hidden, research, looking for deep transformation. Next, I told you to look at the sixth house. The sixth house can be the house of routines. It's not necessarily your job, but your routine is involved in your job. Like, it can be a part of your job, if that makes sense. So in the 12th house, I have Pisces. When I took my astrology course with Mr. Capilrash, he said that whenever you have Pisces, you kind of feel a little lost about it. And I am so bad with routine. I will never, and I apologize, but I will never be able to have a routine upload schedule. You will find out really quickly. I can commit to long-term uploading videos, but I'm just so bad at routines. And another thing is, like, Pisces is about spirituality, intuition, so my routine has to do a lot with that. And the sixth house is also about healing. I'm gonna use spirituality and intuition to help people heal, hopefully. And where is the lord of the sixth house? Is in the seventh house with Rahu. I have Aries. Aries is a sign of inspired action, but it is in this house, but it's in the seventh house of partnerships. So my partnerships with other people will involve taking inspired action. And once again, the Lord is in the 11th house, Mars. Oh, and I forgot to mention that for the second house, I also have the Lord, Mars, in the 11th house. So again, partnerships with large groups of people. And I have Rahu in the 7th house. That means that in this lifetime, this channel, it desires to experience relationships with other people. I'm gonna prioritize having relationship with my audience. So I was telling you, if you have a K2 in the first house, it's because you conquered taking care of yourself in previous lifetimes, and then by default you will have Rahu in the 7th house. In your previous lifetimes, you perhaps didn't really get to fully explore or master being in relationship with other people, which is kind of funny. That's kind of how I feel about my other channel. I feel like I didn't fully experience building a community that in the way that I really wanted to. And like I said, I forgot what this yoga is called, the Rahu and Jupiter conjunction. God, I forget what it was called, but it means that it's a teacher who's kind of like out there. It's kind of an outsider kind of teacher. Which means that people when I'm in partnership with people, they are gonna see me as a teacher that is kind of non-traditional. because Rahu represents like foreigners. It also represents like outsiders, outcast. So an outcast teacher, if you will. Okay, and the last two houses that I told you to look at is your 10th house. I have a Cancer in the 10th house. Means my authority is involves being nourishing to others, being a mother-like figure almost. And the Lord of the Cancer, which is the moon, is in the 4th house, and that's actually really good. Whenever you have your planet looking at its own house, it gives it protection. Now, as the last layers I was mentioning, I have the sun in the 10th house. The sun has full directional strength in the 10th house, even though I think it's not as good that it's in Cancer. Directional strength matters more. And sun, it represents the soul, your strength, your vitality. So the strength of this channel is in being of nourishment to others. And Cancer also represents like home. So it's almost like I'm going into your home and bringing you nourishment. It just sounds kind of weird, but that's literally what's happening if you're watching me on your phone at home, for example. And lastly, the 11th house, I have Leo, a sign of creativity, romance, royalty, because it's ruled by the sun. Its Lord is in the 10th house with full directional strength for once, guys. Finally, I have a good chart. I can go and be creative amongst large groups of people, share my creativity with large groups of people. And then I have a lot of planets in the 11th house. I have Mars, Mercury, and Venus, but Venus could be in the 10th house, like I had mentioned before. We will have to examine how Venus is presenting itself. Is it showing up more as in my authority? My authority is in the arts, culture, love, or dealing with women? Or is Venus presenting itself more when it comes to matters of the 11th house, large groups of people, gains? To be determined, like I said. We will learn together and see how it's actually manifesting itself in my channel. And I have Mercury and Mars as well. Mars is kind of like, you know, Mars is a malefic planet. Whenever it sits, it's gonna hurt you a little bit. So it might be that I get hate comments. People could have really strong feelings about my channel or about me, you know, for better or for worse. So but Mercury represents friendship, communication, intelligence. The intelligence of my channel is in being creative with a large group of people. So there's so many layers to astrology. Like, that's not even like half of everything that you should look at. Like, we should seriously consider like Ashtakvarga points, nakshatras, the constellations, divisional charts. There's so much more. So we're just gonna learn together, and that's just a quick, very basic explanation of how you can start to examine your chart to understand how to make money according to astrology. And if you would like to continue learning with me, subscribe and we'll figure this out together. Don't get discouraged. If you're a beginner, just start out by learning the zodiac signs, what the planets mean. Just start one by one. Focus on a house. What does the house mean? Like, just pick any one point to get started and slowly start to learn that. I'm a beginner at astrology. I kind of consider now like maybe I'm intermediate. I don't know that I'm advanced. You know, after I took my astrology course, I just realized like how little I know. Like, I thought I knew astrology, and I feel like I know very little of it now, even less than when I started. So this is a long-term endeavor. So don't get discouraged if you're a beginner at astrology. We will learn together. And thank you so much for watching if you still are. Subscribe if you like to continue talking about Vedic astrology. And I will see you in the next one.